What's up, YouTube? Bay Area Baller back again. I'm joined by my boy, Johnny, and we're going to be talking all things 49ers on 49ers Fired Up. Johnny, it's been a while since we've talked. I was sure fired up going into that NFC Championship game, but that fire was extinguished shortly after halftime. I lasted till after halftime. I know a lot of folks when Purdy got dinged up they kind of knew it was a wrap or thought it was going to be a wrap. I still had some confidence in Josh Johnson. Even after the fumble, lost the ball, Eagles recovered, or the botched snap, I was still believing Josh Johnson could get it done. But when he went down and got concussed early in that third quarter, the fire was out. Johnny, how long did you last watching that NFC Championship game? At what point did you lose faith?
Oh, I lost faith the second Brock got hurt. It was over for me. I watch the entire game? Absolutely. But my friends were coming, me and my friends were sitting there and go, well, there it goes. He goes like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, it's a wrap. Like it was just no way they were going to win that game after Brock got hurt. There's no chance.
Yeah, man, that was a rough one. Toughest game to my memory that I've watched. But we got some headlines. Dare I say some heated headlines.
The heated headlines.
Steve Wilks hired as defensive coordinator. Now, today I've been doing some research on the guy, right? Obviously, he was hired early. If you're watching this is being recorded on Tuesday. He was hired early on Tuesday. And I started listening to interviews, hearing what players had to say, hearing some of the interviews that he conducted. And there were a few notes I jotted down. Primarily, Steve Wilks is a zone guy. So that philosophy is going to continue. We know Saleh. Obviously, all these guys mix up zone and mix in some man. But primarily Saleh was zone. DeMeco played a lot of zone. Sounds like Steve Wilks is right in that boat as well. And another thing I was reading up on, and actually I saw some footage on, is he's got some real nice zone blitzes. They call them fire zones, where they're sending the linebacker from the next level. He's got some sweet fire zone blitzes. DeMeco also mixes it. We know DeMeco blitzed Fred Warner. He blitzed Greenlaw maybe a little bit. Maybe Wilks will increase Greenlaw's blitz percentage. We'll have to see. The players love him. All the players that I was hearing were speaking highly of Steve. This guy's a motivator. He's a leader. He's high energy. But, Johnny, I want to ask you, what do you think about the Steve Wilks defensive coordinator hire?
First of all, it's kind of the best of both worlds for the Niners, right? Because you're not changing your scheme too much. You're not going to be flipping personnel, because that was the thing I think with Vic Fangio that I think people will be worried about.
I still want a Vic, though. I still want a Vic.
I understand, but the truth is, you're moving Nick Bosa to outside linebacker. You're moving, you don't have the three kind of type defensive tackles you need to run at the base 3-4. So then you're going to be really throwing resources at that when the Niners don't have a ton of resources to go with this offseason. So that's a major factor. I would say the biggest thing with Steve Wilks, though, is that I love the fact that he's a coverage guy first. He's played in the league as a corner. I think the one thing you could say about him is that Carolina has got a much improved secondary over the past couple of years. And why is that? It's because of Steve Wilks. He's helped. J.C. Horn was a top tier talent, but he acclimated to the NFL game very fast, and that's definitely a credit to Steve Wilks. So he's going to bring fire zones. I think he'll calm it down a bit because he's used to not having Nick Bosa, but I think he'll be.
Brian Burns is good, but he ain't no Nick Bosa.
Exactly. But I think the biggest thing for the Niners is that you're not changing your scheme much. I think you'll get better in the secondary with some young cornerbacks, which Steve Wilks has shown he can coach. And then I would also say it may give the Niners a little bit of a change up in what they offer, because they're pretty predictable on defense. It's going to be fresh 4, cover 3, maybe quarters, maybe cover 2. They ran quarters a lot more last year than I realized, and that's just because Fred Warner was balling. But I really feel like they're going to be able to do some things on the defense to not be so vanilla at times, which you could maybe, if you could knock D'Amico for one thing, that might have been the one thing.
Yeah, he played that bend but don't break style. Obviously, they had a bunch of success, right? Whatever metric you were looking at, they were one of the top 2 teams in the NFL in a lot of the defensive metrics that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
So Steve, I think Steve is he's gonna keep the foundation that's already there in the zone philosophy. But you're right, D'Amico was that bend but don't break style. They were really good in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of tweaks Steve makes, and I'm wondering how much of the defensive staff is going to roll over from D'Amico. Like, how much is D'Amico going to take with him to Houston on that defensive side of the ball? Like, I imagined Kyle, when they're interviewing him, they're like, hey, there's a few guys in this defensive coaches room that we want to keep. So hopefully they found some balance there and you keep some continuity, because the defense was already so good, and yet Steve can just put his flavor on it.
Yeah, he's going to tweak it a bit. I think he's going to really look for ways to free up Bosa by just bringing other people, not being so predictable on 3rd and long. Just do something to kind of change the look up. Bosa's going to rush from either side. I don't expect Wilks to change that at all. But I do think he's going to offer a little bit of a variety that we haven't seen in a couple of years. Saleh brought the blitz off a little bit, not a ton, but he loved bringing the corner off the edge. D'Amico really liked using Fred.
Sending K1 from the slot, Saleh did.
Yeah, he loved doing that. And then this past couple seasons with D'Amico, he's really like using Fred and kind of that stand-up rover kind of blitz sort of deal where he's coming in and
over
out.
the A gap.
Mm-hmm.
They might kind of stunt someone around him when Fred blitzes.
Yeah. So I feel like they've been a little predictable that way, and I think that's just something that teams will have to account for, because Steve's just done such a good job over his years in the NFL. I mean, the guy's been a lifelong coach, basically stopped playing and became a coach, been around the league for a long period of time. David Tepper, for all of his faults, clearly paid a lot of money to bring in Steve Wilks right off the bat, because he knew what kind of talent he was as defensive coordinator.
No doubt. And look at MF. MF is on to something right here, because we know Steve Wilks has been brought in, but it's also big time news in who the 49ers were able to retain. And that's Chris Kocurek. We know this guy's high energy. His motor is insane. The players love him. And he's back. For whatever reason, it was being speculated. Could D'Amico pluck him, steal him, and take him to Houston? I know a lot of people were concerned that was a possibility. But Kocurek's back in the fold. When I tell you that, what do you take from that, Johnny?
The Niners are paying him defensive coordinator money now to be a defensive line coach, and credit to Jed York for. I mean, he's always he gets a lot of crap from a lot of fans, but you got to give him credit where he does do well. When the Niners have had good coaches, he pays them well.
That's right, because that's coaches. The one area that doesn't affect the cap, right? That's strictly on the owners. How much money are you willing to pay to get these premium coaches? And Jed opened up his wallet. That's a great point there.
Yeah, he's done it a few times. I mean, he's paid coaches to go away. He's also brought when Harbaugh had his staff, he paid Fangio, he paid Roman a lot of money to bring him from Stanford. It wasn't just the $5 million Harbaugh got. It was the additional $12 million to bring over Roman, Fangio, and the rest of that staff. So it's something that's maybe not highlighted by the Yorks. I know they be a little cheapo in other areas, but when it comes to paying good coaches, they do that. So credit there. I don't give him a whole lot of credit, but I'll give him credit for not letting Kocurek go walk out the door. But also, it did sound like he was. I mean, I think this is more of a leverage play for him, just to try and get. I can get a pay raise right now. Why not?
Yeah.
From what
it had been said that he was not really interested. Kocurek's been in the league for a long time, and the D line is just what intrigues him. He's fascinated with the line, and not so much what's going on behind him with the defensive backs. So I like your point that it could have been a leverage play going to Houston.
That's exactly what I thought when it was being looked at as a defensive coordinator. I mean, I think Grant had said it a lot. Like he asked him, and basically it just said he's like, "Yeah, I had to watch coverage, and I don't want to do that." And that's totally fine when you're the best defensive line coach in the league. You keep getting premium payments.
No doubt. You know what I wanted to do, Johnny. We haven't talked so much about the season, and we touched on the NFC Championship game briefly, but I want to just kind of go back and just talk about the season, maybe initially starting off with the NFC Championship game. And obviously the botched challenge was difficult. You know, Shanahan should have challenged that 4th and 3 play, the catch to Devontae Smith. And also the NFL could have reviewed it, right? They're sitting back there. They got all the angles, all the camera angles, you know, in New York, where they could have stopped the game and said, hey, no, that's incomplete. So the NFL botched it, but also Shanahan, you got to throw the challenge flag, call a timeout, do something, because that's such a pivotal moment, right? Mm-hmm. It's been talked about a lot. But really, the most frustrating part to me, Johnny, after Purdy went down, Hassan Reddick nearly ripped off Purdy's elbow. Josh Johnson came in the game the next possession. His first pass, right? Or it was a play action. Hassan Reddick blew it up. And it's just the fact that the blocking scheme they used, they tried to bring Kittle across the formation to pick up Reddick. It had no chance. Like when Purdy got injured in that sack, Kroft, he was right there. You know, he held him up for like a split second. It wasn't a good block on Kroft's part, but I'm okay with that one. But to come back and like double down on it when you need to get your new quarterback who hasn't played in a while, get him in the flow of the game, have him feeling good. No, his first pass attempt, he just got nailed. Hassan Reddick nearly ripped the ball out of his hands. And that was probably the most frustrating play out of the whole thing to me.
So I'm going to actually counter this pretty hard, because the way you get a quarterback who hasn't played a lot who can move a little bit, is to get him in the boot game. So, like, I understand everyone's frustration with Kyle and the literal opening defense of an offensive drive. I understand where people are coming from. The post-mortem on the Brock Purdy play, it's not just Tyler Kroft. It's Brockton stepping in the pocket. I'm not really blaming him, but just I watched the tape on it, and then the left side of the offensive line got caved in, so Brock really didn't have a clean window to throw the ball. And when you're a shorter quarterback, that's a problem, and that's why he likes to hang back in the pocket a little bit, because it gives him a little more escapability because he's athletic. But also, it's because if he steps up, those big arms get in the way, and he can't see. It's Drew Brees.
I didn't think there was a lot of space for him to step up, though.
There wasn't.
When he got injured.
Right.
Everyone's saying he should have stepped up. I'm like, if he steps up, he's stepping right into an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman that's trying to push that guy back into him. I didn't see the space there. It's just
there was maybe 2 yards. There was maybe 2 yards.
It wasn't. It was okay. I'll give you.
It wasn't the extreme people said it was to try and blame Brock and save Kyle. But yeah, I think the biggest issue with how those two kind of blow up plays were called, even at the second sack by Riddick, was not understanding how they were being coached to play against the 49ers. The ends were not worried about stopping the run. They're worried about stopping the boot and the play action. The Eagles felt basically, and this is kind of what you couldn't really see because the Niners didn't throw the ball a whole lot, but in the boot game and play action game, they were basically taught, go fly up the field and go try and get a sack. They were
showing no respect to the run. I mean, That's what the 49ers do. They say you play the run on the way to the quarterback. That's how the Niners teach it. And the Eagles, from how Hassan Reddick was playing in that game, they had the same philosophy.
Yeah, no, and the thing is that they felt like Cox, Davis, and Hargraves could beat the 3 interior offensive linemen to stop the run. Basically, kind of what the Niners used to do in 11 and 12 with Soplaga, Justin Smith, and Ray McDonald. Yeah, you 2-on-3, but they're still going to kick your ass. You know, that's sort of that was their game plan going into the game, and so it's really unfortunate because it was also like the first 2 plays of the game, so people are like killing Kyle, but like Kyle is also figuring out how they're playing him as well. So, there is that factor to the game, and you notice he didn't do it again after the second time it happened. He tried to catch him sleeping, but no, Riddick's a really good player. I think that obviously it wasn't obviously not the intended consequence of the game that it's essentially over on the opening drive for your offense. But I'm not going to kill Kyle like some people have. He's responsible for one quarterback injury. That was because he was running him like he would Jordan Mason. But the other two, it's just playing in the pocket, pressure off the right side. It happens all the time, and they got hurt. There's nothing really else to say about that.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like, there's some blame to be had for the Trey one, but they're just playing ball, man. Croft has to hold that block for a second longer. You can't get beat instantly.
But he didn't. He got beat outside, and he pushed him around the pocket. I think that's the frustrating thing, because the way he actually
it was a little too quick there. It was a little too quick.
Well, Riddick's really fast. He's not your average defensive end.
No, I'm just the way he won, the way he beat Croft was too quick. You want to try to hold him up at least for like a second. It seemed like he was a half second. Riddick had already won the rep and was on the way to Purdy. But kind of rounding this thing out, overall, big picture, how did you view this past season? It's got to be a success, right? Anytime you go to the NFC Championship game, with a rookie quarterback, I view it as a success. How do you see it?
I don't know how I see it, to be honest with you, because quite frankly,
not the ultimate success. Obviously, that's the Super Bowl, and that's what all 49ers wanted. They should aspire for the Super Bowl every year. But come on, I couldn't be disappointed with how the season went. No,
the Niners, when they had competent quarterback play, were arguably the best team in the league. I think that the reason why everyone's so upset is just because, one, you feel like you didn't really get beat. You just knew you were going to lose and you couldn't play offense. That's completely understandable. But I think the bigger thing is that the Niners didn't really get to show how talented they were, because they really didn't get rolling until after the Chiefs game. And the rest of their schedule was pretty cake, but they still, no matter what, they dominated teams. And so that's the really frustrating thing. You kind of saw them show their talent against the Cowboys, being able to lock them down offensively the way the defense did, and the offense being timely moving the ball, and Brock, adding big play abilities in there. But you just didn't get to see it. So I understand why people are frustrated, but for the season, it's definitely a success. You went to the NFC Championship game and you lost because you basically get it incomplete because your quarterback gets hurt. You're down 3 quarterbacks already. It's really unfortunate. The league is probably pissed because they won the Niners in the Super Bowl. So if you think that was the script, you're crazy. But it is what it is. I'm going to use the Jimmy G, George Kittle quote on this one. It is what it is.
Yeah, I heard that. We'll say what's up to the chat. Eric said, yo, what's up, Eric? Damian Lee. What up, faithful? Thanks for sliding through. Kelts. What did Kelt say? He said, Purdy's bread and butter is to escape east-west. Before the game, Kyle said, get north-south. Once you start double guessing or standing in when you might want to dip, it's over. Yeah, I hear you, Kelts. I know exactly what he's talking about. Purdy likes to roll out. Yeah.
I hear you, Kelts, 100%. But at the same time, when has Brock ever stepped up in the pocket? That's not his game.
Doing it.
Yeah, he doesn't do it.
Well, it's something you got to add, though. It's something you got to add. You guys got to add that to the repertoire.
The thing is, when he starts to step up, though, he's going to get passes batted because, again, he's 6'1". He's a shorter quarterback.
Hey, Trey Lance is 6'5". He gets passes batted too.
Yeah, well,
it's like the batted passes. I feel like Drew Brees is a pocket guy, and I feel like I don't know what his percentage of tipped passes was.
Drew Brees is a 1-on-1 though.
Drew Brees is 1-on-1. Drew Brees is 1-on-1. Hey, I'm just saying. Hey, Johnny. Okay, I got a crazy ass trade idea, and I'm gonna run it by you. All right, it's just something that's been going through my head, right? And before I just spring it on you, because once this overlay comes up, boom, it's gonna hit you right in the face. but I'm going to preface it with this. I've heard, 49ers, they need a pass rusher opposite Bosa, right? We know the 49ers, they're up against the cap. You were telling me before the show, like Jimmy Ward is due $6 million and he's a free agent. And this is coming up next season. Jimmy Ward's getting paid $6 million because the 49ers have been pushing money down the road. Same thing with Eric Armstead, pushing money down the road, right? So I'm wondering, how are they going to be able to get another pass rusher opposite Bosa? Do they need to make a move, right? Deebo Samuel just got paid a premium contract. A bunch of guys are getting paid premiums because the 49ers got a lot of talented players. They're trying to retain them, so you got to pay these guys. But I'm just wondering if this is a move that I'm about to show you that the 49ers would consider. Would you consider it? Because I think it makes some sense on both sides, at least to be somewhat interested. Okay, now let me just put it on you. Would you trade either Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk for Joey Bosa?
No, and I wouldn't, because I think Khalil Mack's going to get released.
Yes, I've heard that too. I've heard that.
The Chargers are in serious cap trouble, and they're seriously looking at releasing either Keenan Allen or Khalil Mack. Mack would basically give them no cap hit because they traded for him. So basically, they would just clear his entire contract off the books. And Keenan Allen would save him, I think, roughly around the same amount of money. So the Chargers are. I'm hesitant to talk about trades right now with the Niners because I don't know if people have taken a look at the salary cap, like what teams are coming into the season. I think more than half the league is over the cap. And then there's about 15 teams that are $10 million plus over the cap. So it's going to be an interesting couple of months as teams kind of jockey themselves to get under the cap before the new league year starts. The Niners don't necessarily have that problem yet. They will eventually if they are able to sign Jimmy Ward or get the rest of their future contracts handled. But I don't trade players who play 17 games for a guy who plays maybe 8 games.
Now hold up. Deebo didn't play. Okay, BA, you're right. You're right. But Deebo ain't playing no 17 games. Deebo's making a lot of money too. So
but you can't trade him. Like his guaranteed money is all backloaded. So like all this cap hit would just basically, like all those guaranteed money, you would still have you would get the cap hit of like $30 million like this season. So Deebo is untradeable, at least for a season.
There's no wiggle room. There's no wiggle room. They can't negotiate. Hey, you eat this much, or I eat this. Can you eat a piece of Joey Bosa's contract? I feel like there's ways to potentially.
Yeah, there are, especially because as you come up on the new league year. But again, Deebo just signed his contract. Also, the thing with Joey is, are you going to have the two most expensive edge rushers in the league on one defensive line with not? Joey and Nick? I mean, it's questionable. Nick to me is worth them back. He's going to get Joey, though. I feel like got paid a little too soon. He gets hurt a lot more than Nick does. I mean, if you go back and look at
he's been dinged up. And the flip side of that is, well, Deebo's been dinged up, he's missed some chunks of multiple seasons too. So that's where Ayuk, and I'm just looking at it more of the sense that the Chargers, like you said, it's speculated that they're going to be having to cut ties with Keenan Allen. And really, like, they need a receiver with some juice. Like Mike Williams is a good player, but he's a jump ball guy, kind of a post-up threat, if you will, he's not getting a bunch of separation. He's not explosive.
Yeah.
In terms of separating. And that's where I could see them being interested in a Brandon Ayuk. Justin Herbert also throws the ball. He likes to check it down a lot short. We know he hit Austin Eckler a ton this year, but you're throwing that to Deebo now. That's another weapon in the short area. So it made some sense. I mean, I'm not saying go do it, make it happen. But when I saw Joey Bosa in Philly repping Niner gear, right, supporting his brother, I don't know, some gears started turning in my head, and I'm thinking, hey, could they make a move? Would they consider it? Probably not. This is probably all moot. But to me, it seems somewhat realistic. Just to get a talented player like Joey Bosa, you got to give up a talented player, or you got to give up premium draft picks.
Yeah, I do think, though, if the Niners were going to make a trade, so you got to keep in mind, you don't have a first-round pick. You don't have your second-round pick. You have third-round picks, but they're basically fourth-round picks. They're 99, 101, 103 right now.
At the very end of the third.
Right. So if they were to trade a player, it would be Brandon Ayuk. Without question, there's nobody else who really fits it. And this is a couple things. One, Ayuk's coming off a career year, so his value is at an all-time high. He is your number one receiver. Now, hold on, everyone. Don't freak out. I'm not saying trade Brandon Ayuk. All right? I don't want that to happen. He's the Niners' best wide receiver by a mile.
He's dynamic.
He
runs the best slant route. I've said it, Johnny. He runs the best slant route or the best post route, whatever in-breaking route you want to call, as good as any wide receiver in the NFL. He's just so sudden. He's so decisive, sticks his foot in the ground. It's a sharp cut, and he's getting separation. So I like me some Brandon Ayuk too. Sorry to cut you off, but please.
No. Dude, hey, it's your show. You do what you want. No. I mean, let's be honest. There's only if you look at the Niners and where they're at in the cap, there's only two guys you can possibly move. Brandon Ayuk is one of them because he'll have basically zero to no cap hit. The other is Trey Lance because he's a quarterback and quarterbacks have value. I think Brock Purdy's injury confirmed Trey Lance will not be moved this year, regardless of what happens. There's no way you can trade Trey Lance going into a season where Brock Purdy, you have no idea what his elbow is going to look like in August. You just can't do it. So, but Ayuk, though, if they were going to make a big move, if they were going to try to improve the defensive line, he would definitely be the guy mentioned. Or it would be for a first-round pick and a second-round pick and maybe some change. There's also been rumors bumbling around that T. Higgins might get traded. So it's interesting to see.
I've heard that. Yeah.
It's interesting to see these teams with two really good wide receivers. The one guy is going to get paid, the other guy is not going to get paid, or if he does get paid, it's going to be really tough to do so. It's going to be interesting to see what the Bengals and the Niners in particular do. There's been rumblings though that the Giants are going hard after T. Higgins, and then will inquire about Brandon Ayuk. The Niners may not just pick up the phone. You listen and then you go, okay, great, thanks. Then you just never call them back. But I mean, it's realistic. But I would say if there was a guy, maybe McCaffrey, but like because he has no cap hit, you just free up $12 million. But everybody else, Deebo's got. I think if you trade, I'm on sporadic right now.
Yeah, McCaffrey ain't going nowhere though. McCaffrey he was just huge, big time, performed phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, the only guys who are tradable for the Niners, just from a standpoint of where you're not just completely dead cap. Like if you traded Fred Warner, for instance, you're losing $21 million right off the bat.
Okay.
There.
You got Spot Rack pulled up here letting us know. Hey,
Kittle's
everyone
20.
watching. Hey, Johnny, I got to let everyone watching. You guys got to like and subscribe right now. Well, hit the like. That way more people will hop in. Yeah, Johnny, you were telling us, who you think is tradable and who's not.
Yeah, no one's really tradable. I mean, even Kinlaw is not particularly. I mean, Kinlaw. I
don't want that guy.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think anyone
he was terrible this year. PFF graded him as the worst player on the 49ers. For whatever you take PFF worth.
No, that's about right. I would say him and McGlinchey were the two worst, and probably Burford, but I give Burford a pass because he was a rookie. But I would say McGlinchey and Kinlaw were definitely the two worst starters on offense or defense, without question. So I don't think you can trade a guy with chronic knee injuries either. So yeah,
picking up his fifth-year option either.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely not happening. Oh, and then I looked up Deebo. Deebo, if you trade Deebo, it's a $35 million cap hit because all this guaranteed money's backloaded. So you can't move Deebo.
Okay, so it ain't Deebo. It ain't Deebo. If anything,
the offseason to move Deebo was last year.
I know. Well, it was speculated. It was widely speculated, and Deebo even asked for it. according to some parties. Anyway, Deebo's back. He kind of turned it on during the playoffs. Like you saw some of his explosiveness and what made him all that money, why the 49ers paid him. But it'd be nice if we can get 17 games out of him next year and try to contend for that number 1 seed.
No, Deebo was the 4th best weapon on the offense this year. Let's just be frank. Kittle was better. Ayuk was better. McCaffrey was better. And Deebo just signed a $26 million a year contract. So,
well, according to Kareem, maybe we can shift Deebo over to right tackle. McGlinchey, we know we're about to do some free agent talk here in a sec, but if McGlinchey goes, just shift No?
Deebo gets hit, and sometimes he pretends like he got shot sometimes. So, he gets hurt, and he goes down really hard, and it's a disaster, even though it's just like an ankle sprain or something. So, I don't know about that.
Johnny, free agency is I want to say it's about a month away, maybe a little over a month. And
I think the 15th, March 15th is when the new league year starts.
Yeah. That sounds right. A little over a month. And I was looking at the Niners roster and these free agents. You can see them up on your screen over here next to Johnny. And we're going to run down this list and we'll go back and forth on if the 49ers are going to be able to retain this player, if you want to retain this player. Why don't we start off with a captain? And that's Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward, obviously this year he moved into the slot. Tayshaun Gibson kind of stole his role, if you will, when he got injured early in that week 1 game, right? It was early in that week 1 game, if I'm not mistaken. Ward went down.
He got hurt to start. Yeah, he got hurt before the season started. So he started the year on IR, and that's why they signed Tayshaun Gibson. Was because that's what happened.
That's right.
But he did break his hand. And
when he came back.
Right, when he came back. He came back to the Denver game, and broke his hand.
Yeah. So, he came back instantly, boom, broke his hand, on the initial kickoff of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something like that, yeah.
Jimmy Ward, he was good this year. He was good. And he was super phenomenal in the run game. That stuff in the run, he's just a physical slot. You're going to put him in the slot. I thought the coverage was pretty good. What did you think of Jimmy Ward as a slot corner? How did you think he performed?
Well, I think his Instagram Live said it all. But no, wow. Jimmy did the Niners a solid by not moving back to corner. It turns out that Kyle wouldn't allow him to do that without riding the punt. So I personally don't think that was disrespectful from Kyle. I think that was more of Kyle wanted his best 11 players on the field, and he felt like the best 11 included Jimmy Ward in the slot, not at safety for this season. Having said that, he has to be priority number 1 in free agency. He's at the end of the season, he was the best defensive back on your team. I know Lenore started playing better. I know Ward was very solid. Hufanga was missing a little more tackles here and there. Gibson was just kind of doing his role and solid. But I would say Jimmy Ward, by the end of the year, was the best defensive back on the team. I think I don't see a lot of priority free agents on this list. If you can get them back at your price, great. If not, see you later. I think that's what's going to happen with a lot of these guys. But Jimmy Ward, I feel like I don't think he's replaceable with free agency, through a trade, through a draft pick. He's not replaceable for the 2023 49ers.
Whoa. Irreplaceable Jimmy Ward.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was thinking, well, hear me out, Johnny, because another free agent who's 4th on this list over here is Emmanuel Mosley. Mm-hmm. And what do you think about my idea? Bring back Mosley, because I think he's going to be cheaper than Jimmy Ward, maybe. What do you think? I know he's younger, but coming off the ACL,
the Niners might get
who do you
lucky.
think? Who's getting a more lucrative deal, in your opinion? Jimmy Ward or Emmanuel Mosley?
Oh, Jimmy Ward, without a question. Jimmy Ward. Okay. Jimmy Ward might get $15 million a year on the open market.
Okay.
I know what I said about the cap, about how a lot of teams don't have a ton of spending money. But for Jimmy Ward, if he doesn't want to win a Super Bowl or doesn't particularly care because he would rather make $35 million guaranteed, which a lot of people would rather take, someone's going to offer him that deal. Like, I would not be surprised he ends up in Houston with D'Amico, just because the Texans will have a ton of cap space. They'll give him a fat signing bonus to come over to Houston and be sort of a building block for the rebuild that D'Amico is about to go through in Houston. So that would be a really quick, easy one. I think Saleh with the Jets, I think he'll go after Jimmy Ward. We know the Raiders like Jimmy Ward. They went after him. They need help in the secondary.
When did they go after him?
They went after. He almost signed with the Raiders back in 2019.
Wow.
Yeah, he was about to sign with the Raiders. The Niners matched the offer, and he signed back with the Niners.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I think the Raiders came back over the top, but he said, "No, I'm staying here." He got the Niners, I think, to like $11 million a year, and was the number he was at. And he's been proven to be worth that. He's really durable. I know he kind of had injury problems this last couple of years. Played well this last season in particular, but not before that in his early part of his career. But he's one of the best. He's one of the best safety / nickelbacks I've ever seen, because most guys can't play both positions at a high level. Jimmy Ward can.
He's versatile.
Super versatile. So I don't think Jimmy's coming back, because I don't think he's to give the Niners a discount after playing in the slot. Now, the only way maybe he gets discount, maybe he doesn't want to move. That might just be the thing. Maybe he doesn't want to move. Maybe he's got roots now in the Bay. He's been here so long where he just wants to stay put, and he's got his house, nice big house. Just tack on a couple $10-12 million guaranteed and be the end of it. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's a priority, but I think he will be gone. I think it's the bidding war. There's another thing too when we get into free agency that I want to talk about, is that this free agent class is pretty poor at all positions. It's not exactly a lucrative big time free agency class, and we don't have a first, second round pick to possibly trade for an impact player. Jimmy Ward is going to be at a premium, so I think Jimmy's gone. I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any. I think he's going to get too much money on the open market.
And I'm with you. I don't think Jimmy Ward is going to be back. Obviously we like him. He's a good football player, like you mentioned, but I just don't think he's going to be returning. Jimmy G's second on this list. I don't know why I just put him on here, because he was on the list I was looking at. But
everyone wave. Bye.
Jimmy's out of here. Samson Ebukam. What do you think about Samson? I was a little under. I know he had his moments. He had his flashes. Like he made some quarterbacks uncomfortable in the pocket, but I was a little underwhelmed from Samson Ebukam. Where did his performance do for you?
I think it depends on how you looked at Samson Ebukam. He was very good at setting the edge against the run. That was basically his claim to fame on this team. But when you got into edge situations where sometimes he needed to win because he had the single block, he didn't always win. I thought he played as a pass rusher. I thought he was a lot better at the end of 2021, going into the 2022 playoffs.
Yeah.
I thought he got hot and he started to really figure it out. This past year, I think he was very injured. I think that was also
he was
part
playing
of it
through
as well.
Something. Yeah, the whole second half of the year. What was it? A groin or a calf or something lower half?
I think it was multiple things. Kruger had basically said it was multiple things, and he's a guy to go into the locker room and kind of ask around and see what's going on. So I think he was just really nicked up and was basically playing through it because the Niners needed him to, and he also was a free agent and wanted a payday. But he might be a guy who might stick around the free agent market a little longer than expected. So there's a possibility he's back. I don't see it happening. Again, Houston has a lot of cap space. They know D'Amico's. A lot of players here know D'Amico's system, and on this list there are about 3 or 4 defensive players who would play extreme snaps for the Houston Texans right off the bat and get a bunch of guaranteed money.
They're going to steal a few guys. Not a few, but a couple. He's going to steal somebody, because anytime a new coaching hire comes into a new organization, you want to get some of your guys in that building. You want some of your people in the locker room that are going to help mold the culture. Mm-hmm. So whoever it is off this list, D'Amico is going to steal 1 or 2 guys. Who knows? Saleh knows a lot of these guys. He could pluck a guy. McDaniel, well, yeah, he's on the offensive side of the ball. he knows these guys on defense as well. So these 49er, ex-49er coaches that are spread out all over are looking at our free agent class, licking their lips because, like you said, maybe it's not an overwhelmingly top-heavy free agent class, but the 49ers got some players here. And the fourth guy on this list, obviously he tore an ACL early on in the season, Emmanuel Mosley. It's a guy I would love to see return. I'm an E-Man fan. I think he's good in coverage, just like Charvarius Ward and Diamador Lenore. He'll stick his nose in the run game and get physical. I like Emmanuel Mosley, and if what you're saying is true, if Jimmy's getting paid, $15 million per, and E-Man's closer to 6 or 7, where we re-signed him, a few years ago, where we got him at, I might just roll with E-Man coming off the ACL, put him outside. Then you can shift Diamador Lenore into the slot, where I think Lenore, I've been saying, I think he profiles as a good slot corner. He's physical against a run. We've seen it. You can blitz him. And, he's not afraid to get his nose dirty. So it's a way to save some money. And I still feel like have a really good secondary is bring back E-Man. You hope he gets back to full form and shift Demo in the slot. What do you think about that?
So the Niners might get lucky with Emmanuel Mosley because I don't anticipate Emmanuel Mosley getting a deal right now just because it's too soon after the ACL. He has been rehabbing with the Niners facility. He may just want to say, I'll sign a 1-year deal. I'll keep my doctors that I've been working with this whole time and stay with the Niners and sign a team.
And then try to cash in.
Exactly. Because again, he's only 27, 28 years old. So very possible Emmanuel Mosley's back on this team moving forward. I felt like until Brock got hurt against Philly, I still felt like the most impactful injury to the team was E-Man going down against the Panthers. Because the defense secondary, even with Lenore stepping up at times, it was not really the same. Mosley was a veteran. He was really playing really good football. It definitely hurt the defense for that little period where the Niners kind of got lit up on defense and was like, oh, why is this happening? And all the national people didn't even know Emmanuel Mosley's name. It's like, no, there's number 2 corner got hurt. He's really good. He's almost a 1 on a lot of teams. But the Niners might get lucky here. Again, not a great. I think corner is maybe the one free agent, the one spot that's got some players. I know like Marcus Peters, Byron Murphy is also. I think he's a restricted free agent. I'm curious to see what Arizona is going to do this offseason because it might be a disaster down there. I can't wait for that. There might be some
just rooting on their downfall, huh, Johnny?
Well, apparently a lot of the players they can't hire a coach because the coach doesn't want to work with Kyler Murray, and a lot of the players don't want to play with Kyler Murray. So things might get very interesting in Arizona, to say the least. Byron Murphy being a guy who might be one of them. But yeah, I mean, I think Antonio Brown's a name, but he's also coming off an injury. Jonathan Jones is a guy that I liked last year by New England.
Brown?
Anthony Brown. Did I say Antonio?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You threw me off there. I was like, I'm going to stay away from Antonio Brown. Okay. Anthony Brown, corner, right?
Yeah, corner. Yeah, Anthony Brown from the Cowboys. He was having a really good season before.
He's a speed demon. I want to say he's like a 4.3 dude. That dude's got crazy speed.
He's 29. He can still run really well. Jonathan Jones, he's a nickel, but he's really good he's been really good for the Patriots for a really long time. But he's not a run fit nickel. He's a coverage nickel. Bradbury's there too. So Bradbury's going to be the number 1 target on everyone's list just because of what Philly's done. And even though he's 30, and then Marcus Peters, and I know Bradley Roby, but I wouldn't sign Roby. And then Peters. So there are some guys who are going to take the attention early in free agency. But I still think a smart team will take E-Man. Again,
a smart team goes out and tries to get E-Man on like a 2-year, probably like $14 million deal, something.
I would say
maybe that's
higher.
A little rich.
He might get higher. 18. He might get to 18 over 2 years. Again, and there's 2 teams who need corners, and they're former coaches of the 49ers. The Jets, not so much, but Miami could definitely use another corner. They dealt with a lot of injury issues with Byron Jones or with Jones and I always forget the other guy's name, like Xavier Howard.
Xavier, yeah.
He might be gone, and then the Texans don't have anybody. So I mean, the whole team could be a free agent except for the rookies they drafted last year. So it definitely is a landing spot for him. But again, he could honestly just say, "Hey, I know my doctor's here. I trust these guys. I can be back." But yeah, he's one of the guys I have hope on. He could actually be back.
Me too. That was my prediction. Is E-Man comes back and Jimmy Ward gets away. But why don't we go to what is it? The fifth guy on this list, Mike McGlinchey. Is he staying? Is he going? He's saying bye. Johnny's waving bye. I'm with you.
Actually, this is the funny thing is that he's going to price himself out, and that's going to be that's the craziest thing I've ever heard of in my life.
Yeah,
just because I mean, here I'm going to run through the names who are right now free agents at right tackle, not left tackle, but right tackle. George Fant, who's pretty damn good. He's a solid veteran. Yeah. Brandon Parker.
I want to say Fant. Sorry, we'll go back to Fant. I want to say he was a collegiate basketball player.
He was nasty. He was like one of those 6'6" like demons at like 280. Yeah, he was nasty.
I just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, continue.
But yeah, Fant is probably the best right tackle. Isaiah Wynn, I know a lot of people like him. I don't. He's 6'2". He does not fit this. He doesn't fit this run scheme at all as a tackle. He fits it perfectly as a guard, but not as a tackle. I know people like Caleb McGarry because he's a bit of a cheaper option. I think he got a lot of help from Chris Lidstrom this past year, who had a ridiculous season for the Falcons at right guard. No one knows that because no one watches offensive line film of the Falcons, but I've seen a little bit, and Lidstrom really helped him out. But he's kind of a liability in pass protection too. So he's about the same. He's a little bit older than McGlinchey. That's the crazy part too. Is McGlinchey's younger than most of these guys on this list. But the bottom line of rereading this few names is that there are not a lot of guys. I think maybe there's one guy that I might sneaky go after is Jawan Taylor from the Jaguars. He's coming off an injury. The Jags are up against the cap. He might be a guy. He's 25 years old. You might want to take a look and see if you can get him on the cheap. But yeah, it's not a laundry list of like go to the market and you're going to plug and play and replace McGlinchey, which is hilarious.
I feel like it might be McKivitz, Johnny. They might just be planning to roll out Colton McKivitz at right tackle.
See, okay, so the Niners might have a little bit of hubris when it comes to, hey, we know more than the fans. And they nailed it last offseason. I want to give them a lot of credit. They nailed Hufanga. That was a big concern for a lot of us. They nailed Brendel. That was a big concern for a lot of us. But the more times you try that strategy, you're going to get burned eventually. It's just the way it goes when you're using 6-round picks and guys who just haven't played a lot of football. And especially at right tackle, if you're not a guy who can step right in and stalemate. And again, where is most pressure coming from? It's coming from the right side because you're dealing with the best pass rushers in football are coming off that side now. They're not coming off the left tackle side. They've seen the Trent Williamses and everybody else in the world and like, okay, we're going to go to the other side. And we'll watch the ball and get a better release and get more sacks.
I agree with you. And Ramilia, thanks for stopping by. He says the Rams own this chat too. And here's my response.
Hell no. To the no, no, no. Yeah, to the no.
Hell to.
Hey, Ramilia, what's it like talking to all two fans of the Rams? I'm just curious. All two of them.
Let us know.
1, 2. That's it. That's all you get.
Yeah. Well, and it was fun. You know, Ramilia, I like going back and forth with Ramilia in Grant's chat. I give him a hard time and tell him, you know, how did the senior citizen home let him get that elaborate setup, right? Because he's got a big elaborate setup. It's like, how did the senior citizen home allow you that much space? Like, I'm impressed on one hand, but he disappeared for a couple months. I mean, Ramilia, he was gone.
Yeah, it's weird.
The Niners kicked the Rams' butt. I want to say it was week 4, the first time he was gone, and then he didn't resurface until the Niners lost in the NFC Championship game. Now Ramilia pops back up, but hey, Ramilia, I still appreciate you coming by. That being said, I want to get to the next man on this list, free agent list, and that's Charles Omenihu. After Nick Bosa felt like Charles Omenihu was the most consistent pass rusher, just productivity-wise, pressuring the quarterback, staying on the field, right? We know Armstead missed a chunk. Omenihu felt like he was probably the second best defensive lineman, to me at least.
Yeah,
I don't know if you agree with that, Johnny, but he's a free agent. That's a guy I feel like D'Amico could be another guy D'Amico might pluck over and bring him back to Houston because that's where we got him from originally. So that's interesting in itself.
Menahue's going to get paid. He's going to make a lot of money.
Okay.
I'm calling that one right now.
Wow.
Charles Omenihu had I called it before the season that he was going to be their top guy. Hey, what's up, dude?
What's going on?
No, I'm just on a call.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Let's see it, buddy.
That's how Johnny handles biz.
That's how I handle it. No, he was going to be their top guy. Like,
yeah.
I was a big fan of his. Coming into the season, I felt like his size, speed, that whole ratio for him was going to be a big one. But he came in and played even better. He dropped weight. He's going to get paid. He's gone. That one's going to hurt.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you. You've talked me into it. I had some hope potentially could he return, but he was really good. And the 49ers, they don't got a ton of money to spend. So Omenihu could be off to, might not be greener pastures, but he could be out of here. Azeez Al-Shaair, I think it's another guy. I think Azeez is gone. I'm a big Azeez fan. I love Azeez Al-Shaair. Coming into the year, honestly, I thought maybe he was better than Dre Greenlaw, but Greenlaw played so well that it's hard for me to stand on that take at this point in time. But I still think Azeez is a really good player, and a smart team would go out. And Azeez has the potential, in my opinion, to be an every down linebacker in this league.
Oh yeah, he's probably a middle linebacker too. He's going to Houston. That's
I know. I didn't want to say it. I'm saying like everybody like, oh, D'Amico's going to take this guy. I didn't want to say it there, but yeah, D'Amico, if he's smart, I don't know who they got at linebacker over there. Is Christian Kirksey still holding it down in the middle for the Texans? Like, I kind of like me some Christian Kirksey, but there's an upgrade to be had there, and that's Azeez Al-Shaair.
Yeah, Al-Shaair. I mean, the Jets could use a linebacker too. I mean, the Dolphins could use a linebacker. Just off the bat, these are just teams that coaches who have played with him, who know him. Right off the bat. So yeah, and also you can't pay 3 linebackers in a scheme where you only have 2 on the field. I'm not so worried about losing him just because the Niners have shown the ability to develop linebackers. So that's an easy one.
Let's kind of go rapid fire because I wanna touch on this whole list. So we'll go quick rapid fire thoughts. Next guy on this list, Robbie Gould. I feel like if you can get Robbie Gould back on just a fair deal, I think you bring him back. He was a pretty accurate kicker. Obviously we know about his limitations in terms of distance. He's probably not kicking anything over 54, over 53 yards.
Yeah.
But inside of that, he's been pretty darn accurate. So I would bring Robbie back. What say you?
Oh, if Robbie wants to come back, you probably get him on a discount. So yeah, I would get Robbie Gould back.
Okay. Next on this list, Jake Brendel. This guy led the offense in snaps this year. He was on the field holding it down at the center position. I thought he was solid. Now, here's the thing, Johnny. I'm always looking to upgrade, right? Like Brendel was solid. He wasn't bad. I will say in that NFC Championship game, Christian Kirk caught a little screen, and Brendel and Burford were out in front of him, and it looked like it was going to be a huge gain. But Brendel I don't know if it was a safety or he let someone just run right past him to tackle McCaffrey, where it's like, Brendel, dude, you blocked that guy. McCaffrey's still running right now. He's still running.
Yeah, no, he's solid. Like I don't want to talk crap about him. I mean, he's the first year as a starter. It took him
first year as a starter. So you figure he's going to get better. You bring him back yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he might price himself out too. The Niners don't have.
No, Johnny, no, you're not getting me there. Jake Brendel, nobody's sprinting to the free agent list saying, Jake Brendel, we need that guy. I don't think the team's doing that. Except for maybe the Niners, who's the alternative right now? Brunskill, who's actually going to be appearing on this list here shortly.
Yeah, I mean, Connor McGovern, is he much better than Jake Brendel? I don't think so. Austin Blythe, I don't think he's much better. Garrett Bradbury, he's been a colossal bust in Minnesota. That Rodney Hudson, he's super old and probably going to retire.
He's
Jason
old.
Kelsey, I mean, he's going to retire. I'm just reading off the names on the list.
Nowhere.
So Brendel actually could be an upgrade for some of these teams. You know, so that's the thing is he's coming off a Pro Bowl
he's a
season.
Forrester guy. Forrester's made this guy's career, literally. True. This guy's followed Forrester around everywhere he goes. Finally got his opportunity. He was solid. I think Brendel's going to be back. I'm looking to upgrade because I think he's solid. But like I said, I want to upgrade at any position that's possible. So if there's an upgrade to be had, again, you've dove more into the free agent list than I have at this point. But I would be looking for upgrades, and Brendel, he's kind of my backup option. Like I would want him as opposed to nobody. I want him back, but I'm looking to upgrade.
Yeah, I think the Niners are going to roll with Jason Poe and Nick Sickell battling for the center position next year. Yeah, that's where I think this is going to go. I don't think the Niners. I would like if they
scorching hot takes.
You heard it here. Jason Poe, Nick Sickell battling for that center position per Johnny.
Yeah, I think the Niners, they'd rather go cheap and develop their own guy with Forrester. I think they saw Brendel as a stopgap for a year. Forrester and Shanahan really do like Poe and Sickell. And Sickell made the team. A lot of people didn't think he was going to make it. And he actually played okay at center in the preseason a bit, if I remember correctly. But he's kind of the right guy for this scheme. He's tall, he's lanky, he can move, and he's apparently very smart. And Jason Poe has the right leverage to do it. So, and
the athleticism. Centers, I love it when centers can get out and get to that next level, pick up that linebacker, go get that safety. And Poe, that's where we've seen his agility. The guy played some H-back. You know, he's got some versatility to him. A great developmental player. I want to say Poe won, I don't know what they word it as, but like the practice team player of the year. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, on the practice squad. Yeah, Trey Lance
Poe
won that. Trey Lance won that the year before, which was interesting. Yeah. Okay, let's keep rolling down this list. Brunskill, is he back? Yes or no? He won't get signed until August anyway. So if he's back,
I say yes.
Probably.
I like Brunskill, and not in the sense that he's the starter, but you can literally plug him in anywhere. Like he can be your backup lineman, like at any position, literally. Okay, so I would want Brunskill back, obviously for a cheap price. Jordan Willis, yes or no? Is he back?
Yeah, he's got to price himself out. He's really some of these teams. Yeah, man. Jordan looked really good at the end of the season. He looked really good.
He looked good.
He had a $6 or $7 million a year deal, and I don't think the Niners will match it. But hey, thanks, man. You blocked one of the sickest punts I've ever seen. I salute you. I'm
hoping Jordan Willis can come back, and I still think there's a chance for Jordan Willis to come back.
Yeah, there's a chance.
Tayshaun Gibson. Now you're of the mindset. Oh, you thought Jimmy Ward is also going as well. You just really want to see him return. So with that mindset, if Jimmy Ward is on the way out, is Tayshaun Gibson staying a 49er?
I think the Niners have like the perfect safety in Gibson because he'll be cheap. No one's going to want him because he's older. So he'll just be there. So the Niners will be able to offer him what they want to offer him, and he'll probably end up taking it. I mean, I think he got paid the veteran minimum this past year. And he had 5 interceptions. So not bad.
Yeah. I think Tayshaun Gibson's going to be back, especially with how I foresee Jimmy Ward going elsewhere. So the 49ers are going to want to keep some continuity. Jaguayo with the super chat. He says, Brunskill, valuable for versatility. He's back. Me and Jaguayo, we're in simpatico. We're on the same page because, Jaguayo, he can be your backup left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. I mean, Brunskill, he's a jack of all trades. So I agree. I'd bring Brunskill back.
Yeah, I think he'll come back. I just, he's not a guy you have to worry about because it's not like he's going to get a 5-year, $20 million deal to start free agency. You don't have to necessarily worry about him.
Okay, Gibson. We both think what Gibson. We think there's a good chance he's back.
Yeah.
Right? Is that where we settled? Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Hassan Ridgeway. I know he missed a chunk of the year. I thought when he was out there early in the season, he was solid. Ridgeway. How do you feel about Hassan?
He's back. He's back. He's not. He's not.
Whatever.
If the Niners are going, if the Niners
Whatever.
are going to sign a D tackle, I hope it's an upgrade from Javon Kinlaw, because they cannot go into next season expecting
honestly,
Javon to be a starter.
Hassan Ridgeway
Can't do it.
probably was an upgrade while he was on the field to
Mhm.
what Javon Kinlaw.
But that's not
gave
saying
us.
much.
It's not saying much. Kerry Hyder. I just put him on the list. I thought he flashed a little bit at the end of the year. He was getting a lot of reps inside.
Mhm.
I thought he was holding up okay, and I just
I actually hope he's back and they convert him to D tackle.
Okay, all right, tell me more.
I actually hope Kerry Hyder really flashed when they put him inside. Even in the run game, he's really good with his hands. He loves playing for Chris Kasarik. I really hope he's back next year because I feel like if he tacked on 10, 15 pounds, he might be a starting defensive tackle on this team. Right off the bat, yeah. So I think Kerry Hyder will be back. That's one I could say yes on.
More and more run as the season went on, and in playoffs, Hyder was out there, and it felt like he was holding up pretty well. So I would bring him back on a cheap deal. Next, let's move to the tight ends. Croft and Dwelly. It sounds like some law firm, right? Come and we'll represent you here at Croft and Dwelly. And I'm at the same thing like I was with Brendel. Dwelly, if you want to bring him back as a third guy, but I want to upgrade it, Johnny. I thought the 49ers should have drafted a tight end last year. I saw kind of a need where you just want to bring in just a talented player, just a good football player, but it didn't happen. Where are you at with Croft and Dwelly? And I don't know if you've looked ahead into the free agent market at tight end.
Yeah, it's more of the same. It's a lot of just guys. You're not going to spend on Evan Ingram or Mike. I mean, there's actually solid guys coming off this list. Gesicki, Dalton Schultz, although he'll probably be back in Dallas. Gesicki's going to be gone from Miami, but he's going to get a massive deal. Evan Ingram. Austin Hooper is a name. I know the Niners have looked into getting Austin Hooper.
Yeah.
He might be too expensive. Another guy who might be a sneaky one is Robert Tonyan, because he's been dealing with a lot of injury issues. It doesn't sound like Aaron. It sounds more and more like Aaron Rodgers will not be back with the Packers.
I'm hearing Raiders. Have you heard any of that? A-Rod to the Raiders?
I think the Packers are just going to negotiate deals. Tell Aaron that these are the deals on the table. They're going to restructure his contract and he'll be traded. I think the Packers have had enough. I think they're ready to move on. They're ready to see what they have, because they're in a situation where they need to make a decision on Jordan Love, or they need to get back on the quarterback market. And I feel like next year with Caleb Williams and the kid from North Carolina, and also the kid from Texas too, there's some good quarterbacks in the draft. So I think they're better than this year's group. But I think that the Packers sort of I think they just had enough. And so Tonyan might be a guy who's coming off a couple injury seasons. You might be able to get him really cheap. So that's kind of where the Niners are at. I know Chris Manhertz. I want a blocking tight end, and I think that he would be a veteran blocking tight end who can come in right off the bat and actually give some extra help in the run game and even in the pass protection game and in the play fakes. So, I think there's some names here, some guys who can help, but, we'll see. Some of these guys might get some big contracts that I'm not expecting.
There's always a few contracts that get your eyes open. Christian Kirk comes to mind, although he played well with Trevor Lawrence over there in Jacksonville. Jaguayo. You said draft Michael Mayer from Notre Dame would be great. Yeah, Jaguayo, I'm going to start diving in. Johnny might be ahead of me on the prospect analysis. I usually wait right about now is when I start getting ready to roll with some draft prospects. After the Niners season's over, you give it a week or so. You lick your wounds, and then you're back to the draft board analyzing that. So I'll be sure to check out Michael Mayer. Do you know about Michael Mayer, Johnny?
Yeah, Jaguayo. Trade Brandon Ayuk for a top 10 pick, and that's how you get Michael Myers. So that's it. He's going the top 20. So there's no way you're getting him.
Yeah, 49ers, we got 3 third-round picks. So, yeah, that's not going to get you inside the top 20.
That's not
But
going to get you inside
Jaguar,
the top 60. They're in the back of the third round. They're not. If you traded all three, that can maybe get you a second-round pick.
I was going to say, if you traded all 3, what could that get you?
I think on the
it's
trade analyzer,
probably-
it's like 52.
It's a late
something
2.
like that. Yeah.
That'd be my guess. Yeah. Hey, Johnny, I'm gonna get you out of here. I got one last question before we wrap up the show. And it's about the 49ers quarterback situation, right? Brock Purdy, we know he was having some kind of surgery. What have you heard about Brock Purdy? I heard it's not Tommy John. I heard it is Tommy John. I don't know what to believe anymore. But what are you thinking going into next year? Going into the offseason, like what's your game plan? What would you do at the quarterback position?
So I'm not a doctor, but I think what's going on is Brock is making sure there's 2 things, right? He need that from what I've been told from doctors and my baseball friends who have had Tommy John, just swelling in your elbow has to go down before you can operate. So that's number 1. So that's why the delay is going on if someone's wondering. Number 2, I don't blame him at all if he gets Tommy John surgery. I really don't. I think he's being smart. Weigh all your options, get the most opinions. If all the opinions say one thing, then okay, then do that. But, keep in mind, only one other football player's ever had this surgery, and he was not a starting quarterback. It was Nick Mullins. He's not been a starter since. He's not played extensive time. So we don't know what this little brace thing can do for Nick Mullins. The amount of throwing with contact that, Nick hasn't gotten hit in 2 years. He hasn't been on the field. So, there are serious concerns with Brock. If he got Tommy John, I would not. If any people will talk crap, and they should keep their mouth shut because it's not your career. He's doing the right thing. The Niners
Got
get
it.
pissed.
He's got to take care of himself, man.
Take care of himself.
Get him back all the way.
And if you think that I'm someone who's like, oh, well, you just want Trey Lance to play. No, I want the best player to play, because my gripe with this team is that Jimmy held this team back. I feel like both these guys, given an opportunity, a full season, can show they will make the offense more dynamic and play better for Kyle Shanahan. Regardless, I think Brock has shown a lot more in the nuances of playing the quarterback position. He's shown a lot of intelligence on the field. Trey, it looks like at times things are going a little too fast. It looks like he's not just where he needs to be right now. And so hopefully he gets there, but it's becoming more wishful thinking, because he needed this season to play. He needed to play 17 games. He needed to have the 4 picks.
He still needs to play, Johnny.
Yeah.
Let me tell you just where my thought process is, and let me know how your reaction to it, right? I like both of these guys. Talking Trey Lance, talking Brock Purdy. I like them both. I still think Trey Lance has the higher ceiling, and I don't want to just give up on that at this moment. Like, if you insert Brock and say, hey, it's Brock's team, he's the starter, like, then what is Trey Lance? We may never know. I feel like we kind of know what Brock Purdy is. I honestly, as of right now, and this could change, right? This is all fluid. As new information, as more information comes in, my opinion could change. But right now, honestly, I want to see Trey Lance play. This guy has never played back-to-back games. I want to see Lance maybe start the first 4 weeks and just see where we're at after that, right? If there's 3-1, if he's playing good, maybe you want to continue to roll with Trey Lance. Whereas if you go with Brock and like Brock's pretty good, he's pretty good. He's better than Jimmy. Like, I'm gonna say I think he's a little bit better than Jimmy right now. But Trey Lance's ceiling is even above that. So as of right now, I want to see Lance play. I want to see Lance start the year next season. And if it looks bad after 3 games, then hey, I get it. You can't throw a season away. But
no, you can't. But
how you feel about that?
The truth is, the way I felt when they made the trade is how I like Trey Lance. I think he's a good kid. I've heard nothing but good things about him. I know he's a tenacious worker. Like, that he likes to party a little too much, but he does work insanely hard.
Heard that.
Yeah, that is a minor flaw, but he's 22 with a lot of money. I can't really blame him. If I had that, I'd probably do the same thing. But the issue is this team and this time frame. It's never added up, because part of the deal of Trent Williams staying with this team is that they felt like they could win a Super Bowl, and they will not take 1, 2 steps, 3 steps forward to go back to go 5 steps forward. They won't do it because they feel like they're the best, most badass team in the league. And it's the indictment of Kyle Shanahan's decision to make that move. I understood why they did it. They couldn't get a veteran quarterback, the ones they wanted. Stafford was gone. Yeah, good luck with that for him. Good luck with the future with a neck injury. That boded well for Peyton Manning. You had Deshaun Watson got weird, so that one you couldn't make a move for that, and you were left with like Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold as possible options. That wasn't realistic, so that's why they made the move. And again, we like Trey, but the reality of the situation is you drafted a guy who threw the ball 400 times in college to be a franchise quarterback at 21 years old, who lost a season, not his fault in any way, to COVID, but who probably should not have come out in the draft that year. He should have probably stayed in college and gotten more reps, because I think the one thing that Brock Purdy has shown teams is that these reps in college matter. They matter. The ability to just run the 2-minute drill, just really simple nuancy stuff. Or if you just don't do it, you never do it. And there's no question Trey's a play, and of course I want to see him play. But the truth is, and I think this is why so many fans have been so pissed off about this. And Jesse, who has been Trey's biggest advocate,
Number one guy.
Jesse, I love you, buddy. But I think just the truth is the team has rejected this move from the day it was made, and it didn't matter if it was just. It didn't matter if it was Justin Fields. It didn't matter who was whomever. They felt like this move was going to put them out of a Super Bowl window when they could have won one right now. And I think it's caused a lot of animosity in this team, and it creates situations where when Trey gets hurt, people are kind of happy, especially fans, which really pissed me off.
That's bullshit.
It's bullshit. It is, but it happened. We saw it happen.
I know. Kyle Juszczyk, the day but we're back to 49er football. Like, come on, Juszczyk.
And then you got Silver, dancing on Trey's grave at the end of the season because he's talking to George Kittle, and we don't know who he's actually talking to, but we know he's talking to George Kittle and Kyle Juszczyk and the other veterans who just talk about how great Brock is. And to me, the hard part with this is that I like both these guys. I understand there are questions about Brock's durability. Is he a franchise quarterback? But those are questions for down the line. I want to see him play 30 games. And the same for Trey Lance. I want to see him play 30 games. I want to see him have
you want to see them both play, but Johnny, realistically, only one guy's going to get a shot at the start of the year.
Trey's going to start the season because it's very simple for the Niners to do this. We start slow all the time. So Trey or Brock, it doesn't really matter. We're going to look like crap in the first month of the season because we don't practice, because we got a bunch of older guys, so we're not going to play well. So regardless, Trey Lance will start at probably the first 4 games. And the Niners can very easily just put Brock Purdy on IR. Very simple. Very simple. Kyle Shanahan can continue.
They're not going to put him on IR if there's a chance that he's ready to come back before that. Because when you go instantly on IR, that means you're out how many weeks?
4 weeks.
4 weeks. Like, what happens if they think he might be ready by week 2, week 3?
I think Kyle Shanahan's going to scare himself into making sure that Brock's okay. And also, it gives the excuse.
Be overcautious. Okay.
I think that will happen because of the extreme response to how just mauled Kyle's been by the fan base. And the Niners are very aware of it. And the bigger issue is that they also need to see Trey Lance play. Like, that's the other thing about this, too, is that we're all saying this, but you don't think John and Kyle want to see him play? Like, the guys who moved heaven and earth.
And Jed. How about Jed? Right?
I think Kyle and John have been very fortunate to win a lot of football games and not have to pay the piper on this deal like other coaches would. I mean, this is a fire. If if like say Matt Nagy did that to Trey Lance week 2, he might have been fired after the game. Like that's how egregious that was. Like let's just be frank. If that had
Trading the
happened,
3 first-round picks.
and then running him like a fullback, yeah,
And
yeah,
then running
he
him
might
like
have
a
been
fullback.
fired. He might have been fired. Like there's no question in my mind. Other coaches wouldn't have gotten away with it, but because it's Kyle Shanahan and it's John Lynch, and they've won a ton of football games and built a hell of a team, they get the pass from ownership. That's just a fact. I mean, I don't think Jed York has any interest of moving off Kyle and John anytime soon, unless it's back-to-back disaster seasons, which could happen in the future with the cap, with a bunch of old guys coming up on the cap. Could happen. I don't think it will. But that's the only way John and Kyle get fired.
Johnny, love it. We'll leave it right there. Thanks for giving me an hour and 15 of your time. The chat was wild. Thanks for everyone in the chat who stopped by. Like this video on the way out so more people see it. And, subscribe and hit the notification bell because you don't know when I'm going live. I go live sporadically at times. So you don't want to miss a show. But again, Johnny, a.k.a. That Niner Guy, thanks for coming by. Love hearing your feedback. And it was a fun year, man. We're in full off-season mode. So we'll be talking soon.
Oh yeah, I'll be doing my psycho 4th-round draft and evaluations for everyone, so then we can pick guys like Spencer Burford again. Super
You
fun.
can send me your 20 mock drafts again like last year. Yeah, keep sending them my way, Johnny, because you did hit on Burford. You hit on a few of your mock draft picks. So send them my way, Johnny.
Sounds good, man.
All right, catch you next time.